It's Junius. I'm here with another update. This is the first part of my story. I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'm just going to tell the story of the very first summer that I was there. This one, I wanted to tell you about my experience living in San Francisco, one of the most expensive and most beautiful cities in the world. Deceptively so. Not deceptively in the money department, but deceptively in the beauty department. It can be one of the ugliest cities in the world for various reasons. I lived there from the summer of 2011 to the summer of 2017 with a 9-month break in the middle. I'm sorry for that sound. It's coming from my computer. Don't you love the background? This is my dad's studio. This is where I'm currently living. I live with my mom in Nashville. And I'm currently 32 years old, and I lived in San Francisco from the age of 23 to the age of 29. The age of 45, 6. Yeah, 5 years, excluding 9 months that I was away. I moved there in the summer of 2011. My twin sister just happened to be out there, and her husband, her now husband. I remember San Francisco being incredibly sunny, that there was always sunshine, and it was always very temperate. The people were very liberal. I wasn't used to that. I was used to conservatives and Christians. Out in San Francisco, there are liberals who are spiritual, which is fine. I went there over that first summer, and then I lived with her in Oakland, and then I moved into a house in Potrero Hill, which is on top of a hill that overlooks San Francisco. I remember in that first 2 weeks that I was in San Francisco with my sister that I was very possessive of her. My brother-in-law they were together. They had been together for about 5 years at that point, and I didn't want to let my sister go. So there was one time we were walking across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I literally pulled my sister's hand away from Thoth's. His name is Thoth, like Apple Thoth. And I said, "She's mine, you can't have her." And I remember in those first 2 weeks that I was living in this house that they were sharing with Thoth's ex-girlfriend, that Thoth got mad at me a lot because I was leaving a lot of things lying around. So after about 2 weeks, my sister and Thoth wanted to go to Oregon, and I didn't. I surprisingly was getting tired of living with my sister, so I decided to stay in San Francisco, and I wasn't afraid about what I was going to do. I think I had $7,000, and I had money saved left over from school. One day I was walking along the Embarcadero. My mom called me, and she said, "My friend Jamie Stobie has a room in her house that you can live in because her son Nate is going to summer school." So I remember I was so excited that I was going to get to stay in San Francisco. I'm not really sure why I wanted to stay in San Francisco after having spent so many years being away from my sister and finally getting to see her again. My sister had become a very different person for me. She wanted to stay inside and paint pictures and draw and write, whereas I wanted to go outside and explore the city. And she was very happy just hanging out with Thoth, and I wasn't. I went and stayed with Jamie. The first night that I was there, we talked about alcoholism. I have people in my family that suffer from alcoholism, and it was really nice to be able to talk about that. I went and moved in with Jamie. She had 2 puppies called Bubba and Freya. They were both cattle dogs. They weren't puppies, they were dogs. I used to take them for walks all the time. Something else that I noticed was a huge difference between I had gone to New York a lot. I had gone to New York almost every single year since I was 5, since I was born. And my sister and I were walking up the streets of San Francisco, and we realized how hilly it was. And we both, at the same time, were very, very nostalgic for New York. I remember that. So that first summer, I was staying with Jamie, and after about 2 or 3 weeks, I got really bored. I was going and looking around the city every day by myself, and I got really bored. I started looking for work. I looked at work at restaurants, at grocery stores, and I couldn't find anything because we were in the middle of a global recession. I started looking for physical theater schools that teach mime, mask, and clown. And I found a school in downtown San Francisco that didn't cost very much. There was a 2-week summer program that was coming up. Surprisingly, it was coming up shortly after I looked online. It hadn't already started, it hadn't already finished. So I decided to go there. It was called Flying Actors Studio. The 2 teachers, it was a studio in downtown San Francisco with a bunch of pillars in the middle of the room. The 2 teachers were James Donlin and Leonard Pitt. Lenny was a big tall guy with a big belly who had stark white hair that was a little long. It wasn't too long, but he would always go like this to get out from his face when he would put a mask on, and he was a brilliant mask performer. He would put a mask on and like turn into a different character. He was incredible. And James was a self-taught mime. I can show some clips of his work. I went there for 2 weeks. I met a guy named James Sunquist, and we became really good friends. When the fall came, I decided to... My sister came back from the Oregon Country Fair, which is what she had done up in Oregon. I went up to the Oregon Country Fair. I took a bus. I took a turtle bus or something like that. That was the first time I was ever kissed. I was on the bus, and this guy named Red, who had red hair, was a Mormon. He tried to make love to me on the bus, and I kept telling him I'm a virgin, and he didn't believe me. And we parted ways when the bus came to a stop at the Oregon Country Fair, and I never saw him again. I went home with my sister. They were staying in a tent in the far back of the fair because they were traveling around the fair performing. They were paid by the fair to work there. That was a pretty incredible experience. I got a lot of dust up my nose. It was really fun. But the most incredible experience was trying to be made love to in this bus. I'm trying not to say in this video. I think that's the only time I've said So by the time the fall came around, I finally got a job at the California Shakespeare Theater, and I went and worked there, and my sister either stayed in San Francisco or went somewhere else. I'm not really sure what she was doing at that point. My sister is a traveling street performer. So that was my first summer in San Francisco. I'm trying to keep this under 10 minutes. So that's what happened in my first summer that I was in San Francisco. The next video, I'll talk about the next year that I spent there. There was a lot of unemployment and a lot of going to coffee shops looking for jobs and spending money on things that I didn't have money to spend on. Anyway, that's the first summer in San Francisco. I'll see you next time. Bye.